Good afternoon and welcome to my channel, Watercolor Painting in the Afternoon. I'm painting this simple landscape today, and I'm beginning with the rule of thirds. As you can see, I'm marking off thirds on my paper, and this is just a basic rule of landscape painting. Sky, middle ground, and foreground tend to occupy thirds of the paper. So the sky is in the top third, and the middle ground, of course, is in the middle third, and then the foreground in the bottom third. I'm just drawing in the mountains, the hills, the things that I want to mark so that I know exactly where to put them. I took just a little bit of orangey, dusty orange paint to paint the sky. The picture for this is on Pixabay, and I could not take that picture off Pixabay and put it in a video. So I will put a link to the picture in the description box. But there's a sort of a dusty orange sky, and then you get sort of a misty mountain background. And here I'm starting to mix some of the colors for the mountains in the background. The furthest mountains away are going to be almost blue, but I'm also adding black to make them grayish and look like they have maybe some fog or some morning mist going on, or maybe even some evening mist. And so anytime you have something really far away, it's going to look bluer. You've probably heard that before, but it's going to look bluer than the foreground. The foreground's going to look a lot darker green, and the colors will be more vibrant. But the further away you go, the foggier and the mistier it looks, because you're looking through the atmosphere. And the atmosphere is going to, I don't know why, but it's going to blue it up. It's going to blue up the green trees. So that's what we're doing here. I'm also just tapping in a little bit of a rough edge on the top of those mountains so that it looks like there are trees in the distance. All right, then I'll start to work on the next layer of mountains. So I'm going to pick up more black, and you'll see that I did that quite a bit. I wanted to gray up the greens and the blues that I was using because of the distance that you're looking at them. I'm not sure that that's necessary, but I just found that it worked better for me. And in fact, this first layer looks so much like this. I mean, the second layer here looks so much like the first layer that I had to go back and darken it. In this case, I wanted to try wet into wet, so I went ahead and put some water down, and as soon as that water was in the right place, I put in the color. So you can see how light it was. I did have to go back and darken this up a lot. Here I was just adding indigo and black to make sure that I got the right consistency and the right color, and that it, it darkened up a good bit. just tapping it in. I think that by tapping it in, you get a little bit of texture. You get what looks like trees, blobs of color that trick the eye into thinking you're looking at trees. And I was going to bring that same darker color all the way down, and I kind of, I took it about, most of the way down in that little section, and then lifted the paper, lifted the notebook so that it would run down a little bit and look maybe a little bit more natural. And now on to the next layer. I picked up some green, some sap green, more of the indigo, more of the black, trying to make more of a green mixture this time. Make sure that as it gets closer, you're going to start seeing green and not just blue. I did have some of the green. I touched this blue while it was still wet, and probably shouldn't have done that because I think some of the green kind of bled up into that blue, and it's okay. But I did have to go back. After I finished everything, I went back and fixed that a little bit. But yeah, I mean, you may have to wait until your painting is a little drier than I did at this point, if you're painting along with me. And by the way, this is a real-time video today. I decided not to speed anything up because sometimes it's important for folks to see just how long it actually does take you to make a painting. And I think we fool people when we go fast all of the time, and people are like, I can't do that in 10 minutes. We worry about people's, keeping attention spans and that kind of thing. But y'all aren't ADD, are you? No, I didn't think so. There was a little roadway or pathway along the base of this hill, and so that's what I'm putting in here, or actually it's what I'm leaving out. There starts a few little green fields, and just beyond those green fields is that little road. So that's what I was leaving out, and I will put a little bit of color in it later, but for now I'm just letting it be. And here are some larger trees I'm going to put in. I thought I was going to do some dry brush effect, but it kind of didn't work for me, so I went ahead and just put in a kind of a solid block of green there, but I also dotted it with darker colors so that you could really begin to see individual trees and brush and all of that kind of thing. And this is filling in that middle third. So these things are still in the distance, but they're not as far away as those far mountains. And you can start to see, looking at this painting, how the blue helps those distant mountains look distant, look like they're very far away. And I know you've probably heard other artists talk about that. But it, just bears remembering that the further away you look on a landscape, the bluer and hazier it's going to be because you're looking through atmosphere. And atmosphere has water in it. and water picks up the blue from the sky and from, surrounding environment, and it just makes it look like that. That's why they call it the Blue Ridge Mountains. If you go up there, you look at the mountainscapes and they look blue off in the distance, and that's why they call it that. And here I'm upside down. Wow, okay. There, changed it. I don't know if you actually saw that change or not. I was upside down. That's how my camera is positioned. It's positioned upside down. So I always have to turn all of the clips. I have to do a 180 on them so that they show up right side up on the film. Now I'm putting in here, this is quinacridone gold, and if you don't have quinacridone gold, you can certainly use yellow ochre, I think would probably be the best thing. And I'm making sure that I have a good mixture of 3 or 4 different colors, because in the foreground, you're really going to be able to see the colors. It's not like that distant mountain. You're right up close. You're right up in that grassy area. And the first thing I did was just put down a wash of the lightest color that I want in that area. And then I'm picking up a smaller brush. I think it's a number 2 Princeton Neptune round brush. And I'm going to put in just little grasses and little seedy and weedy looking plants all through this. Oh, and I'm out of frame. Sorry about that. All through this field at the bottom third. I'll get back into frame really quickly. I really do get so involved in what I'm doing. I don't look up at my little screen. And I'm always like, oh man, I messed up. I'm not even in the frame. So sorry about that. So just little brush strokes that indicate a grassy area. It doesn't take too long to do this. It's just repetitive mark making. And for a whole lot of people, this is the most relaxing part of watercolor painting, or of any kind of art really, is just this relaxing mark making, a repetitive motion. You kind of quit thinking. Your brain kind of turns off and you start just living in this world that you're creating and that you're painting. And that's one of the reasons I think I really like doing watercolor, is because I can kind of turn all the other voices in my head off. All the other stresses of the day are just gone, and I can just make these little marks and it ends up looking like something, which is really cool. So for me, there's more quinacridone gold going down. Again, if you don't have that yellow ochre, or mix your own yellow with whatever yellow you have, and a light brown, that would work. here, I'm realizing that I don't have a dark enough brown. This is burnt umber that I'm mixing in with the quinacridone gold, and I'm gonna, try to get a darker value as I go across the field. One of the things that has been hard for me to do is remember exactly how to pick out a good photograph. Picking out a good photograph can be hard to do. You want it to be simple enough that it comes across well in watercolor. And if it's not simple enough, you're going to have to simplify it. And that's kind of a hard thing to do. It's a hard thing to remember how to do. And so I came upon this wonderful photograph, and I thought, well, I'm going to paint this. But if you looked at the photograph, initially you might not think, oh, that would make a great painting, or that would make a good painting. This takes time. I think it just takes time to start recognizing which photographs are going to make a decent watercolor painting and which ones probably won't, or you're going to have to simplify it so much you really need to know what you're doing. So I hope you will go and look at the original photograph. I think it looks pretty good. And but you might not think, oh, that's something that I would have known to paint. And I'm still learning this. I'm still learning how to choose which photograph to use. It's really not such an easy process. I noticed when I looked at it that it went by the rule of thirds. I noticed when I looked at it that the color palette was somewhat limited, and that was very helpful. Also, that the strokes needed to fill in the entire painting were going to be simple. And that is what, to me, is relaxing. If I have to paint something that's extremely detailed, that's a whole different process. And I don't mind doing it. I kind of like doing that. But it's a different process. And landscapes, I think, have a tendency to want a looser approach, at least in my estimation. That's not always true of an urban scape or a cityscape. That's not always true of like close-ups of florals and things like that. So in this case, it felt so good just to be able to pick out a photograph that I knew was going to be fairly simple to paint. And I hope that helps you when you're picking out photographs. Look for something that's already composed, already looks good on the page. Look for something that is not complicated. It doesn't have complicated strokes. It doesn't have a complicated object in the middle. And things that you already know how to paint them. So this is going to be relaxing. This is going to be what you enjoy the most, I think, if that's what you're looking for. If you're looking to stretch, if you're looking to learn something new about painting and about yourself and about what you can do, then choose something more complicated. But man, this was it for me today. These are the darkest values that I'm going to put in, and they're the sort of the grasses that are in the shadow and in the back. Notice that my strokes get smaller as you go further away and bigger as you come forward, so that helps with perspective. And finally, a little bit of splattering in the foreground. And when we're done with that, we're done with the painting. I really hope that you have enjoyed this today. I hope if you like, you paint it along. That's why I did it in real time, so maybe you could paint along with me. And I hope you've enjoyed this. And if you did, please remember to give me a little like and subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much for watching. See you later. And I'll finish up here just in a second. I think I put a few more pieces of grass in there.